Jax's revenge domain. At 3:15 in the morning, while hackers from Romania were trying to break into a bank's customer accounts, I unplugged my headset and walked away. Not because I was scared, not because I couldn't handle it, but because they just told me I was worth $4,500, while my coworker Bryce was worth $32,000 for doing half the work. My name is Norman Hayes. I'm 49, and until 3 months ago, I spent my nights watching computer screens in Austin, making sure hackers didn't break into bank accounts while the rest of Texas slept. I didn't quit in a blaze of glory. I didn't slam my laptop shut, flip my desk, or give some speech people would repeat around the water cooler. I left the way you leave a building that's been crushing your shoulders for 19 years. Slow, careful, and with this weird kind of relief once the weight wasn't mine to carry anymore. Let me back up and tell you how it really started, because the story everyone heard later wasn't quite right. It began with a retention bonus announcement on a Thursday morning in late October. You know, the kind of corporate good news that's really just fear wearing a suit and tie. I worked the overnight cybersecurity shift for Apex Digital Security Solutions, a mid-size firm that handled network monitoring for financial institutions across the Southwest. Nothing glamorous about it, and I'd learned long ago not to expect glamour in this business. When a threat got past our defenses at 2:30 a.m., my phone would buzz and I'd be the one digging through logs, blocking IP addresses, and keeping someone's retirement fund from disappearing into some server farm halfway around the world. The setup was pretty standard for our industry. Day shift got the credit when things went well, night shift got the blame when they didn't. I'd made peace with that arrangement years ago, or thought I had. We had a small team covering nights, just 5 of us rotating coverage across the week. 2 were solid guys who knew their stuff, been around almost as long as me. 1 was fresh out of college, eager and smart, but still learning the difference between a real threat and a false alarm. 1 was this guy who always seemed busy during our handoff calls, but somehow never seemed to be available when things actually went sideways. And then there was Bryce Coleman. Bryce was 32, team lead for the day crew, and he had this way of making everything sound simple. Always relaxed, always smiling. Like the job was just following a checklist someone had already written for him. MBA from some fancy school back east, always talking about synergies and optimization and leveraging our core competencies. He'd say things like, "Don't stress it, Norman. Management knows we're the backbone here." Meanwhile, I'm the one who caught the advanced persistent threat that almost took down our biggest client's trading platform last Christmas Eve while he was at some holiday party posting pictures on Instagram. That incident alone saved the company about $2.3 million in penalty clauses. Not that anyone was counting except me. The thing about working nights in cybersecurity is that you develop a different relationship with urgency than the day shift folks. When something goes wrong at 3 a.m., you can't schedule a meeting about it. You can't form a task force or bring in consultants or wait for the quarterly budget review. You either fix it right then, or you watch millions of dollars evaporate in real time while your phone rings with increasingly frantic calls from people who should have been paying attention months ago. I'd been doing this dance for 19 years. Ever since I graduated from Austin Community College with a degree in computer information systems and talked my way into an entry-level position at a small firm downtown. Back then, cybersecurity was still something of a wild west. No established best practices, no industry certifications. Just smart people figuring things out as they went along. I was good at it, turned out, had an intuition for how attackers think, how they move through systems where they're likely to hide. More importantly, I had patience. I could sit with a problem for hours, following digital breadcrumbs through log files that would put most people to sleep until I found the one anomaly that explained everything. Over the years, I'd watched the industry professionalize around me. Certifications became mandatory, then advanced certifications, then specialized certifications for specific types of threats. I kept up mostly on my own time and dime, because that's what you do when you want to stay relevant. Every weekend spent studying for another exam. Every vacation day burned attending training conferences. Every late night reading technical papers about emerging attack vectors. The irony wasn't lost on me that I'd become an expert in an industry that increasingly valued credentials over capability. Bryce had his MBA and his smooth way of talking to executives, but when push came to shove, when real technical decisions had to be made under pressure, they still called me. My son Ryan was 19, a sophomore at UT studying engineering, smart as hell, and working twice as hard as I ever did at his age. After his mother and I divorced 8 years ago, it had been just the two of us figuring things out. His tuition alone was running me $16,000 per semester, and even with my decent salary and the occasional overtime premium, it was tight. I'd been counting on some kind of raise or bonus to help ease the financial pressure without dipping too deep into what little retirement savings I'd managed to accumulate. So when Jennifer Davis, our director of engineering, called an all-hands meeting about retention bonuses for critical personnel, I already had a pretty good idea how this would shake out. I'd been around corporate America long enough to understand the mathematics of these situations. Praise costs nothing. Panic costs everything. And when executives start throwing around phrases like investing in our people, what they usually mean is we're about to find out who's really essential and who just thinks they are. Jennifer did the whole warm voice routine, complete with prepared talking points and strategic pauses. We're investing in our people. We want to reward commitment and recognize our most critical contributors. Critical contributors. I almost laughed out loud at that one. I'd been keeping their systems secure for nearly 2 decades, training new hires who promptly got promoted past me, updating security protocols that should have been rewritten years ago. If critical meant anything in this context, it meant if this person leaves, we're in serious trouble. By that definition, I should have been at the top of their list. After the meeting, Jennifer called people individually to deliver the numbers privately. Smart move on her part. Harder for people to compare notes and get upset when you do it that way. Of course, in a team of 5 people who work closely together, keeping secrets doesn't last long, but it bought her a few hours. Bryce got his call first around 2 p.m. He came back into our team chat about 10 minutes later with this carefully crafted, humble attitude. Guys, wow, really didn't expect this. They really showed some love. Then, because Bryce had never met a moment he couldn't make about himself, he sent me a private message with a screenshot like he'd won the lottery. $32,000. Cash bonus, not stock options, not overtime opportunities, not some promise about future advancement. Real money with a retention agreement to stay 12 months. He added, "Told you, Norman, they know who matters around here." My stomach did something unpleasant when I saw that number. Not jealousy, exactly. More like recognition, because I already knew what my number was going to be. It's funny how you can work somewhere for 19 years and still be surprised by how little they think of you, even when you shouldn't be. The thing is, I'd been expecting some kind of disparity. That's just how corporate hierarchies work. Day shift gets paid more than night shift. Management gets paid more than individual contributors. People with fancy degrees get paid more than people with experience. I understood all that. What I hadn't been prepared for was the size of the gap. Jennifer called me about 20 minutes later. Video call, which should have been my first warning. When someone wants to deliver good news, they just call. When they want to watch your reaction to bad news, they insist on video. Big rehearsed smile. The kind you practice in the mirror. First off, Norman, thank you. You've been such a stabilizing force on the night shift for so many years. I can't tell you how much we appreciate your dedication. I nodded, because that's what you do in these situations. You nod when people give you compliments that are really just set up for disappointment. You let them get to the part where they explain why all that appreciation doesn't translate into actual money. We're offering you a retention bonus too. We're really excited about this opportunity to show our commitment to the team. She paused like she expected me to express gratitude for the opportunity to be retained. $4,500. For a second, I thought I'd misheard her, like maybe she'd said $45,000 and I'd only caught the last part. I waited for her to correct herself. The way you wait for someone to realize they just said something completely absurd. She didn't. $4,500, she repeated, still with that practiced smile, and it comes with the same 12-month retention agreement as everyone else. I stared at her through the webcam and felt this dull heat rise up my neck. Not anger yet, more like embarrassment on her behalf. Like she just told me exactly what she thought I was worth and expected me to thank her for being honest about it. I see, I said, because I couldn't trust my voice to manage anything more complicated. Jennifer's smile got a little tighter around the edges. I want you to know this reflects budget considerations and departmental allocation priorities, not your individual performance. You're extremely valued here, Norman. Right, valued at roughly the price of a decent used motorcycle. Is there anything you'd like to discuss about the package? She asked. What I wanted to discuss was how someone who'd prevented $2.3 million in losses just 10 months earlier was worth $2,700 less than someone who'd never worked a night shift in his life. What I wanted to discuss was how 19 years of institutional knowledge and 0 major security incidents on my watch translated into what amounted to a monthly car payment spread over a year. What I said was, I'll need some time to review the terms. Of course, take all the time you need. The offer's good through next Friday. When the call ended, I sat there in my home office with the lights off, monitors glowing blue in the darkness, listening to Ryan upstairs getting ready for his afternoon classes. He was taking organic chemistry this semester, talking about maybe switching his major to pre-med, asking me questions about whether we could afford the extra years of school that would require. I opened my personal spreadsheet, the one where I track everything from mortgage payments to grocery bills to the slow accumulation of retirement savings that never seems to grow fast enough. I typed $4,500 into a cell, then $32,000 right underneath it, not to torture myself, just to see the numbers in black and white. The math was pretty simple. Bryce was getting more than 7 times what I was getting for the same commitment period. Either they valued his contributions 7 times more than mine, or they thought I was 7 times less likely to leave. Either way, the message was clear. I started thinking about the previous week when Bryce had missed a critical security alert because he'd stepped away from his desk to grab coffee and chat with someone from marketing. I was the one who caught it during our handoff, escalated it properly, and kept our second largest client from having their customer data exposed during peak trading hours. Jennifer had sent a team email afterward thanking everyone for maintaining our high standards during a challenging week. Now I was being offered walking around money to lock myself into another year of watching other people take credit for my work. The worst part wasn't even Bryce, if I'm being honest. He was just doing what anyone in his position would do, looking out for himself and playing the game the way it's designed to be played. The real problem was a system that rewarded visibility over competence, relationships over results, credentials over capability. I'd been part of that system for 19 years, telling myself it was temporary, that eventually my work would speak for itself, that eventually someone would notice that the guy working nights was the reason their clients weren't calling to complain about security breaches, that eventually experience would count for something more than being good at PowerPoint presentations. That night, around 11:30 p.m., I was settling into my usual routine when our monitoring system started throwing alerts. Small stuff at first, the kind of background noise you get when automated scanners probe for common vulnerabilities. But then the pattern started to change. Someone was being systematic about it, testing specific entry points, backing off when they hit resistance, trying different approaches. Not the random spray and pray approach of script kids looking for easy targets. This was professional work, methodical and patient. I pulled up the traffic analysis dashboard and started tracing the sources. Multiple IP addresses, but they were coordinating their efforts in a way that suggested either a sophisticated botnet or a team of human operators. The timing was too precise, the target selection too intelligent for automated tools. By midnight, I was pretty sure we were looking at the early stages of an advanced persistent threat, the kind that starts quietly, establishes a foothold, then lurks in your systems for months before anyone notices. The kind that costs companies millions of dollars and gets people fired. My phone buzzed, Bryce, of course. Hey Norman, seeing some unusual activity on the client dashboard. You got eyes on this? I looked at the attack pattern developing on my screens. Looked at the alert queue that was filling up faster than I could clear individual items. Looked at the retention agreement Jennifer had emailed me that afternoon. 12 months minimum commitment. Immediate repayment of the full bonus amount if I left early. Confidentiality clause about compensation amounts. Another clause about how at-will employment status remains in effect despite this agreement. They wanted me locked in, but they wanted to keep themselves free to cut me loose whenever it suited their budget priorities. The attack was escalating in real time. What had started as probing behavior was now clearly coordinated reconnaissance. 3 different entry vectors, each one testing different aspects of our client's infrastructure. The attackers were mapping the network topology, identifying critical systems, looking for the weak points that would give them persistent access. I'd seen this pattern before. Christmas Eve 2 years ago, Memorial Day weekend last year, Labor Day before that. Always during holidays or weekends when the day shift was gone, and it was just me and maybe one other guy holding down the fort. Always when the people who got the credit weren't around to handle the consequences. My phone rang, unknown international number, but I recognized the country code. Romania. I didn't answer it, of course. That's not how real cyber attacks work. Professional hackers don't call to gloat or make demands. They work in silence and disappear before you figure out what hit you. But the call told me something important. They knew someone competent was on the other end of their attack. They knew they were being tracked, monitored, analyzed, and they were trying to rattle whoever was watching them, create doubt, make me second-guess what I was seeing on my screens. It was a psychological tactic, and a pretty good one. The kind of thing that might work on someone younger, less experienced, more likely to panic under pressure. Someone like Bryce, for instance, at 1:15 a.m. I had a choice to make. I could follow standard protocol, escalate to Jennifer, wake up the incident response team, spend the next 4 hours walking people through technical details they should have already understood, or I could handle it myself, like I'd been doing for 19 years. The smart play, the career-safe play, was to follow protocol. Cover my rear end, make sure everyone knew I'd done everything by the book, let the company deal with the consequences of being understaffed and underprepared during critical coverage hours. Document everything, send the right emails, make the right phone calls, and let someone else own the outcome. Instead, I started documenting everything for my own purposes. Screenshots of the attack vectors, network traffic logs, timestamps showing exactly when alerts fired and when I reported them up the chain. Not for the company's benefit, for mine. Because I had a feeling I was going to need evidence of exactly what happened tonight and when. At 2:15 a.m., the attackers shifted tactics completely. Instead of trying to break through the customer-facing systems they'd been probing, they started targeting our internal administrative infrastructure. The systems that controlled access to all our client networks, not just one, the crown jewels in security parlance. That's when I realized this wasn't some random opportunistic attack. They'd been watching us, learning our patterns, understanding our vulnerabilities. They knew our night coverage was minimal. They knew most of our security team worked day shift only. They knew exactly when to strike for maximum impact with minimum resistance. This was planned. Professional, expensive. My phone buzzed again, text message from Bryce. Norman, this is getting pretty hairy. Dashboard is lighting up like a Christmas tree. Should we loop in Jennifer? I stared at that message for a long time. Should we loop in Jennifer? The same Jennifer who had just told me I was worth $4,500. The same Jennifer who had told me last month to focus on execution, not process improvement when I'd suggested updating our incident response protocols. The same Jennifer who was sleeping soundly in her suburban house while foreign hackers tried to steal people's life savings. I typed back, your call. You're the team lead. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, appeared again. Bryce was typing something, then deleting it, then trying again. I could practically see him sweating through the phone. Finally, I think you should call her. You know this stuff better than anyone. And there it was. The truth that everyone knew but nobody wanted to say out loud. When things got really serious, when actual expertise was required under pressure, they came to me. The guy they'd just valued at the price of a decent used car. I looked at the screens showing the attack progression. Looked at the retention agreement still open in another browser tab. Looked at the clock showing 2:43 a.m., counting down to when this would become someone else's problem to explain to very angry people with very expensive lawyers. At 2:45 a.m., I called Jennifer's cell phone. She answered on the 4th ring, voice thick with sleep and irritation. Norman, is this urgent? I watched another administrative system light up red on my dashboard. Yes. How urgent? They're inside the admin systems now. If they get root access, they'll have keys to everything. Every client, every account, every transaction. Silence on her end. Not the good kind of silence where someone's thinking through options. The bad kind where someone's realizing they're completely out of their depth. What do you need me to do? She asked. Nothing. Just wanted you to know where we stand. Can you stop them? I could. I'd stopped worse attacks with less warning and fewer resources. I'd been the guy cleaning up digital messes like this for 2 decades while other people slept peacefully in their beds, secure in the knowledge that someone competent was watching the store. But for $4,500, I wasn't feeling particularly motivated to save the day. Probably, I said. Then do whatever you have to do, Norman. Just fix it. That phrase hit me harder than it should have. Just fix it. Like I was a janitor mopping up spilled coffee, not a cybersecurity professional preventing what could easily become a multi-million-dollar disaster. Just fix it, Norman, and we'll give you a pat on the head and a bonus that wouldn't cover a decent vacation. At 3:10 a.m., after I'd spent 20 minutes walking her through technical details she should have understood years ago, she said it again. Just do whatever you have to do to fix it, Norman. So at 3:15 a.m., I did exactly what she told me to do. I did what I had to do. I stood up from my desk. I unplugged my headset from the computer. I took my security badge off the lanyard around my neck like I was removing something that had never really belonged to me in the first place, and I walked away. I didn't panic afterward. Didn't spend the rest of the night staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. My brain just felt quiet for the first time in months, like I'd finally stopped trying to justify things that had never made sense to begin with. The funny thing about walking away from a cyber attack is that the attack doesn't stop just because you're not there to fight it. The Romanian hackers didn't pack up and go home because Norman Hayes decided he was done being undervalued. They kept working, kept probing, kept trying to break into systems that were now being defended by people who didn't understand how those systems actually worked. I found out later, much later, that it took them 4 hours to contain what I could have stopped in 30 minutes. 4 hours of financial data at risk. 4 hours of SLA violations piling up. 4 hours of Jennifer and Shane Bennett, our VP of Operations, running around like their hair was on fire, trying to figure out why their night coverage had suddenly evaporated. By 6 a.m., they'd managed to lock down the immediate threat, but the damage was already done, not just to the systems but to the company's reputation. When you're in cybersecurity, word travels fast through the industry. Other firms hear about incidents. Clients start asking uncomfortable questions about response times and staffing levels. Insurance companies start adjusting premiums upward. By noon the next day, my phone was buzzing like an angry wasp. Slack messages first, then texts, then missed calls from Jennifer that she didn't bother to follow up with voicemails. When managers are confident, they leave detailed messages explaining what they need and when. When they're scared, they just keep calling and hoping you'll pick up. I checked my work email once just to see the scope of the damage. Overnight tickets had piled up like autumn leaves after a storm. The European client had escalated their concerns to their VP of Operations. Another client was threatening to invoke penalty clauses in their service contract. A third was demanding an emergency meeting to review security protocols and staffing adequacy. Buried in the middle of all the crisis communications was a calendar invite from Jennifer titled Emergency Coverage Discussion. You are gent. No agenda attached, no explanation, just the assumption that I'd drop everything to help clean up the mess they'd created by undervaluing the people who actually kept the lights on. That's when my irritation crystallized into something cleaner and more focused. This wasn't a sudden crisis born of bad luck or unforeseeable circumstances. This was the predictable result of a pattern I'd been working around for 19 years, telling myself it was temporary, that things would eventually get better if I just kept my head down and did good work. I started pulling together documentation, not angrily, but methodically. Performance reviews from the past 5 years, all of them capped at meets expectations despite consistently exceeding every measurable metric. Incident reports showing my signature on the resolution of every major security threat in the past 18 months. Professional certifications I'd maintained on my own time and at my own expense, staying current with evolving threats and technologies. The pattern was clear once you laid it all out chronologically. Every major threat neutralized between midnight and 6 a.m. had my fingerprints on it somewhere. Every successful response to sophisticated attacks happened on my watch or involved my direct intervention. But somehow, none of that translated into recognition, advancement, or compensation that reflected actual value delivered. The retention program documentation told its own story. The bonus amounts came from a discretionary budget Jennifer controlled, with no objective criteria listed for how amounts were determined. No performance metrics, no seniority considerations, no measurable impact assessments, just leadership perception and strategic value to ongoing operations. In plain English, how much the executives liked you and how much they thought you might cost them if you left. Bryce made them feel smart and confident during business hours. I made their problems disappear in the dark where no one had to think about them. By Wednesday afternoon, Shane Bennett called me directly. I'd spoken to Shane exactly 4 times in 19 years, and every conversation had happened when something was already catastrophically wrong. Norman, he said, skipping any pleasantries, we're seeing some cascading issues from Monday night's incident. Jennifer tells me you have the most context on our response protocols and client-specific configurations. Context. Not expertise, not ownership, not authority, context. Like I was a filing cabinet full of information rather than the person who'd written most of those protocols in the first place. I said. Can you jump on a call with the team this afternoon? Help us get our arms around this situation. I thought about that retention agreement sitting unsigned in my inbox. Thought about the repayment clause that would have made me financially liable if I'd accepted their insulting offer and then left anyway. Thought about Bryce's screenshot and that $27,500 gap between what they thought he was worth and what they thought I was worth. I said slowly, but I won't. Long silence on his end, long enough to tell me everything I needed to know about how this conversation was going to go. I'm sorry, what? Shane asked. You made a decision about who was worth retaining and at what price. This is what staying looks like when you retain someone for $4,500. I could hear him breathing carefully, trying to stay professional while his company's clients threatened to walk and his incident response team flailed around trying to manage threats they didn't understand. Norman, this isn't the time for salary negotiations. You're absolutely right. I said it's not. The time for that was last Thursday when you decided I was worth less than a decent used car. This is just the consequences of that decision. We'll sort this out tomorrow, he said and hung up. But tomorrow just brought more of the same. The company status page, which had been green for years, went to yellow, then orange, then red. Someone made the crucial error of posting a public update mentioning internal resource constraints, corporate speak for we don't have enough people who know what they're doing. Clients don't like hearing that the people protecting their money aren't available, especially when those clients are financial institutions whose own customers are asking pointed questions about data security. By Friday, Bryce called me directly. Not a text this time, not a Slack message, but an actual phone call. Norman, he said, and I could hear the strain in his voice. Look, I know you're upset about the bonus situation, but we really need your help here. Jennifer's breathing down my neck, and honestly, I'm in over my head with some of this advanced stuff. There it was. Not an apology, not an acknowledgement of how absurd the compensation disparity had been. Just raw need. You got the retention bonus, Bryce. This is what it's for. He was quiet for a few seconds. Come on, man. That's not fair. I actually smiled at that. You're absolutely right. It's not fair. It's just not my problem anymore. Look, I know I don't know the systems like you do. All that documentation you wrote over the years, some of it's outdated, and good luck figuring it out, I said, and ended the call. 3 weeks after I'd walked out, a recruiter I'd worked with years earlier reached out. Day shift position at a larger firm here in Austin. Better base salary, actual advancement opportunities, and a team that understood what cybersecurity expertise was actually worth in the current market. The conversation was different from any job interview I'd had in recent memory. They didn't ask me to justify my experience or prove my value through technical tests. They'd already done their homework. They knew about the incident at Apex, knew about their retention program fiasco, knew that companies sometimes make expensive mistakes about who they choose to keep and who they choose to lowball. We're not looking for someone to clean up problems in the dark, the hiring manager told me. We're looking for someone to build systems that prevent problems from happening in the first place. Someone who can think strategically, not just react tactically. The offer came back with an $18,000 annual increase over my previous salary, comprehensive health benefits, and a clear advancement track to senior architect within 2 years. No retention agreement required. They wanted me because of what I could contribute, not because they were afraid I might leave. I accepted the same day. As for me, the first time my phone rang at 2 a.m. in the new job, it was a wrong number. I silenced it and went back to sleep without thinking about threat levels or SLA violations or whether someone would blame me if I didn't fix something before morning. Because walking out at 3:15 a.m. wasn't the dramatic part of this story. The dramatic part was realizing I didn't have to prove my worth by accepting punishment anymore. They chose to pay for the wrong person, and I finally stopped pretending that was my responsibility to fix. Ryan starts his junior year next month, and for the first time in years, I'm not worried about how we'll manage the tuition. The new company's education benefits cover half, and the salary increase handles the rest with room to spare for the graduate school applications he's already talking about. But the real victory isn't financial. It's simpler than that. I sleep through the night now. When my phone buzzes at 2 a.m., it's usually just a text from Ryan studying late in the library, asking if I'm proud of him. I always text back the same thing. More than you know. 19 years I spent believing that if I just worked hard enough, stayed loyal enough, solved enough problems that other people couldn't handle, I'd eventually be valued the way I deserved. It took a 27,500 rep retention bonus gap to teach me something every 49-year-old man should already understand. Your worth isn't determined by how much disrespect you're willing to absorb. Sometimes the best revenge is just refusing to be undervalued anymore. Everything else takes care of itself. Sometimes the most powerful move isn't fighting harder. It's simply refusing to play a rigged game that never valued your contribution in the first place. The companies that survive understand this. Loyalty flows both ways, and the moment you treat experience like it's disposable, you discover just how expensive replacement really costs.